The Void. Series 1, Episode 4, The Fillim Perspective, by Richard Marcus Powell. Chapter 13. Little Proxima was a restaurant located at the front of the Liberator. It was a little more sophisticated than the canteens located around the ship, but it wasn't overly so. Denom would consider this to be the middle ground between canteen fare and high-priced cuisine. It was a well-known franchise with outlets located across hundreds of systems. He thought quite highly of the place, for despite being a franchise, it served good quality food for a reasonable price. However, he believed it was the view that tempted Carter Vincent to this location. He spied Carter sat on a table near the middle of the floor and moved across to join him. "I see why you chose to change the venue. It's rather spectacular, isn't it?" Carter grinned. "I only found out about this place the other day. Brina DeBrace told me about it." "I don't know her," Denom struggled. "She's one of the diplomatic aides. Nice lady," Carter explained. "She's been helping me learn some of the diplomatic protocols. She's been very tolerant of my stupidity." Denom sat down opposite Carter. "Have you ordered yet?" No, I was waiting for you. I always feel it to be bad manners to jump the gun like that. Now there's another phrase for me to learn. Sorry, Doc. Force of habit. So have you made a decision yet? Decided to be a little conservative. So I'm having a steak with some of those weird tattered chips, Carter elaborated. Not sure what some of these sauces are, though. Went with the pepper sauce, though. The pepper sauce is a good choice. I mean, what's gone sauce? Ooh, that's quite spicy. I wouldn't recommend it unless you have the taste for the extreme end of spiciness. I see. So it's more of a one taste and then you're gone thing, then? Denom chuckled quietly. Not quite, Denom commented. I see the same worry about jumping the gun didn't extend to drinks then. They both quickly glanced at the foaming beer mug in front of Carter. You can't expect a man to wait on beer. Evidently. What do you fancy then? I quite like their manga chicken. That sounds rather normal for you. It's what I want. Okay, let's see if I can place an order with this thing. Carter struggled with his media pad, desperately trying to locate and order their meals. You're managing to use the media pad then? It's not easy, but I'm getting used to it. Feel like a bit of a granddad being given the latest technology. There's always someone younger who can use the technology better than you. Denom wryly smiled. My eldest, Tristan, worked on the Hypnos far faster than I ever could. What's the Hypnos? It's a games machine. Did they have alternative reality games in your time? Are they like computer games? Yes, but they link to your own mind and create a reality in your own subconsciousness. Ugh, sounds a little too invasive for me, Carter stated. Right, 1 steak and 1 manga chicken, whatever that is. Drink? I'll have a wine. Green, preferably. Green? Carter shrugged. He flicked through the menu and found the wine list. Green it is, he stated, noticing the expanded list of colors. Standard or large? Get the large. Good man, Carter encouraged. How many colors does wine come in now? All of them, I think, Denom recalled. Grapes changed on a lot of different worlds, giving rise to plenty of new colors and types. I always thought wine pretty much tasted all the same. You could tell the difference in the quality, and maybe there were differences between the types, but the differences were small and subtle. It's the same now. The new colors offer a few minor changes, but not that much. For a moment there, I thought you were going to be one of those wine snobs. Snob? It's another word for an elitist, someone who thinks they're better than everyone else. Looks like wine snobs have been an aspect all through history then. Who would have thought? One of the few remaining things from my time would be the people who drone on pretentiously about wine, Carter laughed. Watch out, here come the drones. A small drone flew over Denom's head and descended, gingerly placing a wine glass before him. In the glass was a jade-tinted liquid that was crystal clear, rather than the swampy concoction Carter had imagined. Denom sipped a little and savored the taste of the wine. In a blind taste test, he would be hard-pressed to tell this from a good-quality rosé. But that was the point Carter was making. Those things were a bit of a surprise when they brought me my pint. The drones? Would have thought you had them in your age. We did, but we didn't use them to serve food. We had waiters, Carter reminisced. Poor sods who worked for minimum wage, tending to the wants and needs of an entitled clientele. Some places still have waiters, Denom corrected. Some people just like the human touch. The drones ain't so bad, Carter surmised. As long as they don't spill my drink, I'm happy with them. So, what did you make of today? Denom asked. You've gotten to know representatives of 2 different species now, and made some new friends. I have to admit, Doctor, these xenos are nothing like how I imagined them. How so? Well, they aren't anything like the little green men from science fiction for a start. You mean humanoids? Not many of them in the universe, Denom dismissed. There's no other species in the universe quite like us in structure. It seems evolution is quite inventive when it comes to developing multiple solutions to the same problems. No humanoids at all. So much for convergent evolution, then. Not true, Mr. Vincent. Convergent evolution seems to have happened many times. Eyes articulated, dexterous limbs, mouths, and penises. All of them evolved time and again across many worlds and environments. It's just the body configuration was different. I suppose it's arrogant to assume that we were such a perfect design. We are just one design out of many possible combinations. There's weirder out there. But beyond the physical stuff, they just defeated my expectations in their character and behavior, Carter observed. Dr. Lux Pang seems quite good-natured, but there's something about his character that's a bit like a disappointed dad. And Dr. Nevon, with too many names, was far more articulate and intelligent than I would have ever expected for a creature that looked like the way she does. You know, you do have to be a bit wary of making too many generalizations based on a species, Mr. Vincent, Denom warned. There are characteristics endemic to a species, and then there are characteristics that belong to the individual. Dr. Nevon did make that point. She did point out that she was more welcoming to humans than a lot of Makeen. It's these sorts of observations you need to keep making. Just look at us humans. What can you say about us as a species? We're curious, sure. Everybody likes that group characteristic. But what about our rebellious nature? Denom pointed out. Everyone knows that humans are contrary and stubborn, but we don't like to admit those characteristics as near universal, do we? People don't like admitting that they're flawed. I guess it's even more greater when it applies to the whole species. And yet, there's still some massive differences between individual humans as well, as there are between you and me. Denom continued, building momentum. When you deal with xenospecies, you have to consider the group dynamic and the individual dynamic. That's becoming apparent. If Dr. Nevon is a Makeen who is sympathetic to humans, I'd hate to meet one that isn't. Well, on that point, you're in luck, Denom responded. Generally, those Makeen that participate in the combined projects tend to be those more favorable to humans. The others generally do not. That's a relief. Their meals arrived, brought to them by a small fleet of drones. The steak placed in front of Carter smelled gorgeous, instantly provoking audible sounds from his stomach. The mango chicken placed in front of Denom smelled intriguing, emanating sweet and tangy aromas simultaneously. What are these things? Diced mushrooms, by the looks of it. Why diced? Depends on the mushrooms they use. If it's a small one, it's just sliced and retains its shape. If it's one of the really big mushrooms, they dice them. Carter jabbed at his steak to test it for any hidden surprises before he started cutting it up. Denom looked at the spatchcock chicken and started to dissect it, both anatomically and gastronomically. This is good, Carter expressed. Nice and juicy. So, what's your conclusions for today? The universe hates us and wants us to grow up. Xenos are nothing like popular science fiction, and keep an open mind. It's a unique perspective, Denom chuckled. Certainly succinct. There's more to it than that, though, obviously. But that's the brief version, Carter teased. Still, it's good to see you making xeno friends so easily. Let me tell you a story, Doctor, Carter regaled. I grew up in the East End of London, and there was a rather inflated idea of community that we stood together and looked after each other. But it was a fiction. Denom looked at Carter curiously, wondering where he was going with this. There was a Muslim lad who lived a few streets away from me, and one day I happened to come along and found him getting bullied by some other lads. I stood up for him and got a kicking for my trouble, Carter recalled. He was grateful that someone at least tried to help, and we got to know each other after that. Aziz was a good lad, and we became good friends. The fact that he was a Muslim barely ever came up. Carter took a moment to chew on some meat, savouring the taste. We grew up and drifted apart a little when we went off to university, but we kept in touch. He became an architect in the end, Carter elaborated. But the point being that he was from a very different background to me. Yet we got on like a house on fire. All I saw was the common ground between us, which were the wankers who used to bully the others. Denom was confused by the analogy involving fire, but he followed what Carter was trying to say. So you're saying today was reminiscent of that? Yeah. Not the getting a kicking part, but the making a new friend part, Carter emphasized. I went back there as an adult and realized those same wankers were the ones banging on about how great the East End was, and I realized that it was not because they felt love for the community, but fear for what lay outside it. Sadly, you do still get communities like that. Don't get me wrong, there were plenty of good people there. It's just the wankers that soured me on the whole concept, Carter rankled. Made me realize that groups are and that community is where you find it. I got on with Lux purely because we started talking, and we made connections. Nothing more complicated than that. So you're not fond of where you grew up? It was frankly, Carter surmised. Every community has its but that one had far more than its fair share. Can't say I was overly fond of the place I grew up either, Denom remembered. The people weren't that bad, but it was overcrowded and polluted. I know what you mean about certain people. There always seems to be those who aspire to be a big fish in a small pond, but never have the ambition to go further. They knew they couldn't challenge the state. Not without serious risk, so they kept their heads down and fed on their own. Bullies who like to stay within certain boundaries, Carter agreed. Remember you stated there was an optimist inside of my cynical exterior. Well, I think you may have an inner cynic. Carter recalled their earlier conversation and turned it around for comedic effect. I don't deny I have certain misgivings about humanity, Mr. Vincent, but that doesn't make me an outright cynic, Denom contested. Yeah, but there's a little nugget of one in there, Carter taunted good-naturedly. This isn't an ideological competition, Denom smirked. Carter giggled like a naughty child. Will you be compiling a report on your findings? Not a report as such, more of a series of case notes, observations maybe, Carter fumbled. Work towards cultural profiles in any case. I hope you're curtailing the more colourful and extravagant end of your vernacular, Mr. Vincent, Denom advised. Oh, I can talk the talk when it comes to business speak, Carter assured, though I am having to be careful of terms and phrases that are long obsolete. I've really been working that datasphere dictionary. It's good to see you getting on. It's difficult, but I'm managing, Carter stated. Sometimes it all gets a bit much, but I'd rather be challenged than left with nothing to do. And the emotional stresses? There's good days and bad days. I'm still taking it one day at a time at the moment, Carter admitted, but I'm keeping my head above water. Good. If you start feeling it getting too much for you to cope with, let me know and we'll book you some time with a therapist. I will, though I feel more comfortable speaking to you or Kane. I can always spare some time if you need it. I appreciate it, Carter thanked. I do find Kane good to talk to, though. Why's that? He just seems to be a good listener, Carter shrugged. Funny that it should be the artificial person that I find it easiest to talk to. He is very sophisticated. And with so many bodies, he's always available. It doesn't feel like I'm taking away from anyone's time. And you shouldn't think that way, Mr. Vincent, Denom lightly reprimanded. We all make time. We all have a duty of care for each other. I know, but old habits die hard. Is that an old saying? Yeah, I quite like that one. Short and to the point. Feel free to use it. Either way, I'm always available. It was good today, all things considered, Carter expressed. Seen a strange new world and boldly gone when no one's gone before. I can't always tell with you, but it feels like you're making another joke. In a manner of speaking. Think it might take too long to explain, though. Carter stared out at the portal of the planet below and the space beyond. It's a strange universe out there, no doubt about that. Weirder than I ever imagined. And I have no doubt there's weirder to come. But you know what? What? I want to know more.